Today's warm-up, we're again going to be using our order of operations, and we're going to be dealing with rational numbers, and in the beginning we're going to be substituting in for those variables. Now today's looks different than any of the others because it has this, what appears to be a fraction, but we have to remember that that fraction bar, whenever we see a fraction, especially if it's set up like this, is also the same as division. Okay, so don't let that confuse you or throw you off. That's what that means there. So the very first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this. So I'm going to have 2 times h, which is 2/3, minus f, which is negative 12. And all of that divided by 4 times the quantity of f, which is negative 12, times g. Remember, when there's a number, or excuse me, two variables together, that means that they're multiplied together. So negative 12 times 1 1/6 plus h, which is 2/3. And then whatever the answer is to that, I'm going to add e, which is negative 3/4, times h, which is 2/3. Now, I know that our first step in the order of operations is always parentheses, but what you really need to think about here is that the entire numerator, or the entire top above the division bar, is one thing to be done on its own, and that the bottom needs to be done completely on its own before any of that division can take place. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is approach this top one here. And I know that within that parentheses that I've now created, even though it wasn't actually a parentheses to begin with, I know that the first thing that needs to be done is the multiplication, not the subtraction, because multiplication always comes before subtraction. So the very first thing I have to do is 2, I'm going to take this out right here, and do 2 times 2/3. Now I know they both have to be improper fractions in order for me to actually multiply them, so I'm going to put this 2 over 1. And then remember, the last part of the Macarena is to the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. So the top with the top would be 4, and the bottom with the bottom, 1 times 3, would be 3. So I'm now going to put that in the numerator, or the top part of the what appears to be a fraction, but which is really a division problem. So 2 times 2/3, we now know is 4/3 minus negative 12 divided by 4 times the quantity of negative 12 times 1 1/6 plus 2/3, and all of that, the answer to that, plus negative 3/4 times 2/3. So I know the next thing that I'm going to do is continue on this top part right here, and I need to do some subtraction here. So I know that I don't have room to do that on this page, so I am going to switch sides here. Actually, I'm not even going to do that because I know that I'm subtracting, so I have to do the cha-cha-cha, stay, change, change, cha-cha-cha. So I've got 4/3 stays the same, minus becomes plus, and negative 12 becomes 12. So now I know that that's very easy. 4/3 plus 12, that's a simple addition problem. That's going to be 12 and 4/3. So now that I have that, I'm actually going to replace that and bring that on to the next page. So I've got 12 4/5. No, 12 and 4/3. Now I know that 4/3 looks funny, but at this point there's really no reason to change it because I know that at some point I'm probably going to have to turn that into an improper fraction anyway. So now on the bottom of this, I've got 4 times the quantity of negative 12 times 1 1/6 plus 2/3. And all of that is going to be added to negative, that is an addition sign, sorry, negative 3/4 times 2/3. So next, moving right along, I'm going to continue, I'm going to start, I should say, in the parentheses in the bottom part of this, because this top part is done. And remember now I'm treating the top and the bottom like its own separate parentheses. So within the bottom, the first thing I have to do is look inside the parentheses. I've got multiplication and addition. I know I need to multiply first. So I need to put that 12 over 1 times 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7, 6. Now, I do multiply by keeping the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom, but it's very important that I should notice that the 12 and the 6 have a common factor, and that common factor is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. This turns into a 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. This turns into actually a negative 2. So keeping along those lines, keep the top with the top. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. 1 times 1 is 1. So that becomes negative 14. Whoops, I don't want to actually put that right there, because I need to rewrite the entirety of this problem. So I've got 12 and 4/3. Again, we know that looks funny, but we're going to leave it for now. Divided by 4 times the quantity. We now know that's negative 14 plus 2/3. And the answer to that, plus negative 3/4 times 2/3. Now, I'm still dealing with this bottom here, and I've still got some parentheses to do. I've got negative 14 plus 2/3. I'm adding, but those two signs are different. Two rational numbers are different. So if the signs are different, find the difference. Okay, so that makes things interesting. I, of course, need to find the absolute values of both of these, and I'm subtracting 14 minus 2/3. Now, I am sure that everybody knows that if I take 2/3 away from a whole number, I have 1/3 left. So I'm taking it away from 14, so that's really 13 and 1/3. And then my sign comes from my larger absolute value, which is here. I look up here, and that's negative 13 1/3. Now, I know that this 4 is going to come down here, and this needs to be multiplied times 4. So I am going to go ahead and do this on this slide, even though it's starting to look messy. I hope you're still following along. I need to turn both of these numbers that are now being multiplied together into improper fractions. So I'm going to have 4 over 1, any whole number is over 1, times negative 13 1/3. So 13 times 3 is 39, plus 1 more is 40, so that's negative 40 over 3. So I can carry this on, keep the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. 4 times negative 40, well, 4 times 40 is 160. A positive times a negative, of course, is a negative. And 1 times 3 is 3. So I now know that my bottom number, what's going to be divided by over here, is negative 160 over 3. Okay, so I'm now obviously going to have to bring this on to the next page. So just to be clear, everything that I am bringing over onto the next page, I'm bringing over this. I thought I was highlighting, sorry. Bringing over this. Bringing over this, there we go. Bringing over the division. This is now going below it, and I have to bring over this whole thing right here. So here we go. I've got 12 and 4/5. Why do I keep doing that? 12 and 4/3, sorry again, divided by negative 160 over 3 plus negative 3/4 times 2/3. So I have been saying it all along that this is division, this right here, but I haven't written it so that it looks like a division problem yet. So that, of course, is the first thing that we want to do here, is to make that look the way that we're used to seeing it. So it'll be 12 and 4/3, which I acknowledge again still looks a little funny, divided by negative 160 over 3. So the first thing I need to do, which I had mentioned earlier, was to change my 12 4/3 into an improper fraction. It's the only way I'm allowed to divide. So 3 times 12 is 36, plus 4 more is 40 over 3, divided by negative 160 over 3. So this is my math Macarena. First we will divide. Keep the first, flip the second, now we multiply. Keep the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. Well, now before we're keeping any top with any top or any bottom with any bottom, we should be looking across at each other here. Those 3's, they cancel each other out. That becomes a 1, that becomes a 1. And I should also notice 40 and 160. Well, what number goes into both of those? Should be 40. So 40 divided by 40, of course, is 1. And 160 divided by 40 is 4. Don't forget the negative, though. It is negative 4. So the top with the top, 1 times 1 is 1. Bottom with the bottom, 1 times 4 is 4. And that, of course, is negative. And now I need to bring both of those over here. So I've got negative 1/4 plus negative 3/4 times 2/3. Well, now I've got addition and multiplication. I know that I should multiply first. Keep the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. Well, I know again those 3's are going to cancel out. They both become 1's. And I can cancel something with the 2 and the 4 here, but I should notice that these are both 4's. So if I do that, I'll just have to undo it again. Now, if you didn't notice this and you reduced it, you can still bring it back, but I'm just not going to at this point. I'm going to bring this right down, negative 1/4, plus top with the top, 1 times 2 is 2, and 4 times 1 is 4. Now, very conveniently, I already have the same denominators because I did pay attention to that. So I just need to deal with those numerators. Add as usual, negative 1 plus 2. Well, negative 1 plus 2, signs are different. Find the difference. It's going to give me 1. So my top number is going to be 1. My larger absolute value would be the 2, so it is in fact... wait a second. I lost a negative, didn't I? This was negative 1/4. This is a negative here. I apologize. Let's go back. I'm going to bring this right back to here. I caught it before I got too far. So this, of course, is negative 1 plus negative 2. Signs are the same. Find the sum. That's negative 3. Bring it right over here. Negative 3 is my numerator, my denominator is 4, and my final answer is negative 3/4.